I think you hinted on another thing of what I was getting at in that question, or I guess we could really just like load on as like you mentioned mindfulness and you explained a way to like how in the moment do you do that? Like it can surface level make sense. Like, yeah, you just observe and have a window of observation around like your thoughts and things going on. But then to do that while I'm emotionally charged, because I'm either one may be aware and know that my thoughts have emotional weight bearing to them, or I may not have a lot of realization or grip on that, and much less if I'm in the midst of the grab of passion. Like that's also it's very difficult to just maybe I could logically step away, but then I'm still stuck, feeling whatever it is I'm feeling, sad, pissed off,
Mhm.
whatever it is. So I appreciate, and what I'm glad you mentioned is describing like what is mindfulness, because you'll hear that all the
Right.
time in there. Like mindfulness is you're usually sitting and breathing through it. So like what I wanted to mention or offer, like, what are ways or things that we could do with that, like box breathing, slow is 4 second inhale, a breath hold, slow exhale, using especially in particular nasal breathing, breathing through our nose as much
Yep.
as we can for that. Expiring maybe through the mouth, but always inhaling through our nose. Finding or feeling where that emotion or thing sits in our body, I think, is another very
Yes. Well, and not making it
knowing
wrong
that
is
one, it's truth, and that our thoughts, shape our shape our outward perception of reality.
so basically I had a really rough upbringing. I believe that like I was vaccine injured very young, and with the new information coming out about glyphosate and stuff like that, like one of my first memories is them holding me down, forcing me to get the shot, and me just being completely um fearful and terrified of the doctor. And then I'm finding out now like how the glyphosate causes this autism that a lot of people are having. And so I was always very different as a person, you know, as my ego self, as my vessel. Like I was always a very different person, sensitive. And I grew up very sensitive, and it was very traumatizing for me to drop into this vessel and to encounter all this density and darkness. So from a very young age, I was very aware of all of the crap going on. I wasn't aware of like logically what was happening, but I couldn't make sense of it. But I knew like this was not right. And being from like a Christian background, Jehovah Witness, um, I kind of had these beliefs forced on me. And anytime I would question them, I would be put down. And there was a lot of fear put into me, these fearful beliefs. And it caused a lot of depression. And then when I was about 10 years old, going into puberty, finding myself, there was a lot of like shame. And I think Christianity does that to people anyway, but especially me being who I am as a person, um, attracted to other females. Like there was a lot of shame and a lot of trauma from what I had been told. Because one side of the family is telling me, in their own words, they have holes in their head, which is a way of saying they're crazy. And then the other side is saying that, that these gay people are going to go or to hell. And So that was very traumatizing for me because you know that stuff at a very young age, but also on the other hand, I feel like trauma was a very big part in that as well. Like seeing my dad be the strong one made me want to be strong. Seeing my mom be weak made me not want to be more feminine. And then like I just liked boy clothes, so I was very much so a tomboy. But so there was a lot of shame, depression, and I was very, very like withdrawn, very introverted, and very much so like music was my release. It was my go-to for everything. So I was always listening to music, finding new music, playing music. Just from the moment I was introduced to the violin and the orchestra, I was about 7 or 8. Like I just loved it. And that was my escape. So that's always been a passion for me. And I never planned on having children because my outlook on this world was so just, there was just so much darkness all around me. I never wanted to bring a child into this world. But I'm so grateful that I did have Evan because in a
Yeah.
way, really, it saved my life. Because I don't think like I know I wouldn't be here if I didn't have children because of how depressed. I had no will to live for me, myself.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
wanted. So then fast forward, then I had Evan 2008, and then his father dying and me not handling that in a healthy way. Like that spiraled me into a really, really dark and long, heavy addiction that lasted for a few years. And it wasn't until, Karen and I met about, it's been almost 9 years now, but I was really able to be with a healthy person and have a healthy relationship, which it wasn't healthy at first, but we mirrored each other and we pulled the good things out and all this trauma to the surface for one another. And it's been a very healing experience. And music has always been huge for me. So obviously that's part of my purpose here. Obviously, my children, like I'm very passionate about animals and children. And so I've kind of, I'm balancing both of them and now finally releasing my music, which I've been writing music since I was 10 years old. Started playing
Amazing.
guitar when I was 10. I started, the keyboard even younger. And now that's what I do. I make music, for myself and for others to help them heal, to, as a channel. I'm like a channel channeling this sound frequency vibration, to help people.
That's interesting, and that makes a lot of sense. That like that would be such a powerful tool for you in alchemizing or transmuting a lot of like difficult things, traumatic experience and stuff. I think music is an awesome gateway towards emotional release, or that whole they give you goosebumps, so like it can be a whole body feeling and experience.
Yeah,
Listening to
absolutely. Because if
who
you
are
think
you?
about it, oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, what were you gonna say?
Well, everything's energy, so it's just another form of energy, So like there's Reiki and then there's sound vibration. So it's just another form of energy, which can be used for darkness too. Like the 440 hertz music, the mainstream music, it's tampered and messed with, so it actually creates the opposite effect of healing and discord, dissonance. And then the words, obviously,
Oh
words are
yeah,
symbols.
casting spells.
Right.
Yeah, that's important to know too. And absolutely, I think for people that are like tuned in with that, you can absolutely feel a difference in like how a lot of what's on the radio, how that music will make you feel versus I don't like. I know that like Trevor Hall or certain people in a different type of space that make music for in that type of sense, like consciousness evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where yeah, like you can you feel different. The whole
Yeah.
vibe of the music is different, based on something different.
And I don't think these artists are actually doing that on purpose. I think the artists they're just artists and they've been pulled into the music industry, and it's these people who are mixing and mastering. It's the producers who are because you can literally I can change a song to 440 hertz from 432 if I wanted to. So I think when they get the original version, they're taking it and manipulating the frequency of it and for mind control purposes, really. And it creates sickness and rage. So it's a powerful, powerful tool for both healing and for the negative.
Is that something that carries over with your children, or your children use that, or how do you instill that in parenting, or use that you show that for your kids that that's a one of the many like healthy emotion mechanisms.
Well, since Evan was little, he was afraid of my violin when I played it. So I didn't play it because it was such a high pitched sound. But he's always been into music too. But I would play Mozart for him and Jaden. We use it for Jaden too. But so we use it like that. And then it's been Jaden loves to sing music. He loves to like play on the drums, his little bells and stuff. But so it's very therapeutic for them as well. But I think it was different for me because I'm just that's my language. But it can be anybody's language when it comes to just playing, because you don't have to be like a musician or, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just doing it is therapeutic because it's a channel like to get the energy that's within you out. And then like I use it, channeling from the divine through me. So listening to music, and then Evan creates music as well. He plays keyboard and he uses the same DAW I use, Ableton. But for Evan, he's such a analytical person. Playing the music isn't really his thing. His thing is he like literally inputs the notes
Hmm.
into the DAW. Like very tedious for somebody like me because I'm a musician. I want to play it out. Where he can go in there and he can create a whole song just inputting the notes. It's pretty
That's
cool.
cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, he does more like the video game music because he's into video games and he creates video games.
And I was a question I'd have is with like how like those type of tools and those things in life, all of those things in life are amazing. Like whenever it's something that's all encompassing like that, it's something that ties in something physical, it ties in emotional stuff. It can be like spiritual or like consciously elevating or I guess where I'm going with it is like that can be super hard for people to tap into, like getting that the creative spark. I feel like a lot of people know that they have it, but are not necessarily lacking motivation or discipline like you'd hear a lot of times in the main space, but just the sense of getting started or not maybe knowing how to get
Right.
going. So in your journey, one, have you ever had any issues or times where it's been difficult to use your creative muse for whatever it is that you may be looking for stuff going on, whether that's business or like mental health related? Or and then what would you do then, or what would you recommend for other people that may be struggling to get started in that, to find or make a means or way to just pick it up and go?
Right. Well, for
Like,
me, my belief system held me back for a long time, believing it had to be a certain way, my beliefs about myself, believing I can't do it, because that's where it all stems from, is believing we can't.
yeah,
You know, it's the belief system. Whereas when there's no strings attached, it just is, then you can start to create because anybody can be a singer, anybody can be a musician. It's just me, I had the passion to keep going and to figure it out. Whereas somebody who believes they just can't do it, they're just not a musician, they're not a singer, they're not gonna push themselves to actually learn it because they're like, oh, that's just not my thing, you know. But there's a lot of people who actually could, anybody for that matter, could be a musician or a singer. It's just a matter of learning it and practicing and finding a way to practice. So what I would suggest for somebody who would want to do that is to actually just pick up the whatever instrument it is and just start doing it and get the feel for it. Because when I first started, I just picked up the guitar, and my father had a guitar, so I would just strum on it, and I learned how to do the strumming part, and then I figured out the different chords, and then throughout school I managed to teach myself like the different notes and how to read the music. But really you don't even need any of that to create a piece of music. It's just a matter of getting used to the instrument and letting it just flow through you and not overcomplicating it.
I like that. I like that explanation, and I think that's great advice. I know if I think of, I mean, music can be like a tool for me or something that I'll tap into with stuff, and I don't really know how to do much with instruments, but I would agree with the sentiment that is a lot of times a really intuitive type of thing. You don't necessarily have to have any formal teaching or like this is what, but I want to come back to, you mentioned belief system. I think one of the, regardless of what it is, like we could use me and like jiu or yoga or jujitsu or something, for example. Like some of the, again, things like this, the best things for you are oftentimes the most difficult to do, like consistently, when especially when it's something that's really good for you as a person. So like one of the first obstacles I think people will run into, and I know I myself run into when I get back into doing something like that when I haven't done it in a long time, is self-judgment, or
Yeah.
like you brought up, shame. Like what's some tools or some ideas, thinking, perspective that you use to get around some of that? Because sometimes intuitive based on, you know, feeling, but we, if our mind is poisoned or riddled with like shitty thoughts about ourselves or what we're doing, if we can or we can't do something and whatever success means, then no, usually we're pretty harsh on
Right.
ourselves
Yeah.
about it, and that can stop us from getting back into uh, habitual practice, or maybe stop us from wanting to, or being able to, excuse me, not wanting, but being able to get into that type of like intuitive flow state. So, like, what are some tools or things that you use when you encounter shit like that?
Well, first first off, like not having compassion for ourselves and not beating ourselves up for even having the thoughts, because it's normal, because we're all programmed to hate ourselves. Like literally through the music, through television, through school, like we are programmed that way through growing up. And then these belief systems pass on from our parents to us, from our grandparents to us, like deep ancestral trauma, deep soul memory from past lives could be the reason as well. But having compassion for ourselves and not beating ourselves up for that, and then also identifying when it's happening and in the moment counteracting that. So say like I pick up the guitar and I haven't played for a couple days, and now I'm starting to play and it's not sounding how I wanted it to, so I'm starting to beat myself up, and then these thoughts start to spiral. If I can catch those thoughts and kind of
Yeah.
change them and call it out, because there are literal entities that will put these thoughts because they feed off loosh. So you can command that stuff away. And if that doesn't resonate with you, just the belief system itself, you can change that belief system in the moment and just choose differently. And
Oh,
I
I
know it's
agree.
easier said than done, but like it, just the awareness of it will transmute it.
Well, that's the first step. And I mean, it sounds like or well, I guess like what sparks that, or how do we be more observant to when those things come up?
Well, just
Like,
observe the thoughts. So when it starts to, when the thoughts start to come, observing what your self-talk sounds like. So observing like, what are my thoughts, first off, and then second off, be mindful and aware of them to change them. So if it is, I'm trying to think of an example, but basically it's just changing the thought pattern in the moment, like the awareness of the thought and then the ability to change it, to be like with inquiry, to go into inquiry is what I usually do. And
I
it's breathing through it and then realizing that's not true. You know, none of that's really true. It's just a thought. We aren't our thoughts. We aren't even really this body. You know, none of it is true. So the ability to be aware of it and then change it in the moment. And I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. We could go into more depth about like how to jump timelines by saying affirmations and really going into self inquiry to find out where those belief systems came from to
Mhm.
literally change our past. Because these traumatic things happen, and then that creates these belief systems in us.
That's cool. I think you're hinting at a line in the sense of or of time not being linear necessarily, and how
Right.
past impacts present and impacts future, and how
Yep.
we can apply a different level of consciousness now to things in the past and learn and manifest something better for us in the future from
Exactly.
extracting good things. That's cool.
Mhm.
I think you hinted on another thing of what I was getting at in that question, or I guess we could really just like load on as like you mentioned mindfulness, and you explained a way to like how in the moment do you do that? Like it can surface level make sense. Like, yeah, you just observe and have a window of observation around like your thoughts and things going on. But then to do that while I'm emotionally charged, because I'm either one, may be aware and know that my thoughts have emotional weight bearing to them, or I may not have a lot of realization or grip on that. And much less if I'm in the midst or the grab of passion, like that's also it's very difficult to just maybe I could logically step away, but then I'm still stuck, feeling whatever it is I'm feeling, sad, pissed off,
Mhm.
whatever it is. So I appreciate, and what I'm glad you mentioned is describing like what is mindfulness, because you'll hear that all the
Right.
time in there. Like mindfulness is usually sitting and breathing through it. So like, I wanted to mention or offer like, what are ways or things that we could do with that, like box breathing, slow is 4 second inhale, a breath hold, slow exhale, using especially in particular nasal breathing through our nose as much
Yep.
as we can for that. Expiring maybe through the mouth, but always inhaling through our nose. Finding or feeling where that emotion or thing sits in our body, I think, is another very
Yes. Well, and not making it
knowing
wrong
that
as well.
one, it's truth, and that our thoughts, shape our shape our outward perception of reality. What we may feel is happening to us in our reality. And so finding and knowing where
Oh, you're cutting out.
you're thinking like a lot of, anger or area, so sitting through that, breathing through that, and then I think like you said, inquiring, looking at it with a non-judgmental eyes as to like, well, where and when, why do I feel or have that idea that's
Exactly.
very clearly now not serving me?
Can you hear me, Corey? You're cutting out a little bit. Oh,
Go back where I was. Hang on.
and also not making it wrong. Like these feelings are valid and honoring, when you're mad,
I
honoring
caught
when you're
in
sad.
this mumbling.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. That's okay.
Video editing. I don't know what happened. I
It's
was
okay.
wandering in the backyard.
So, also I was gonna say honoring the feeling, honoring, the fact that you're mad, the fact that you're sad, and letting the emotions come up to be released. Because what happens is we repress. So once we feel depressed, we don't want to feel that way. So we distract and we push it down because it's wrong, but not making it not wrong and feeling through it so that it can release. Because the way I understand it is we're designed to feel through. So the emotion, we feel it and move it through the body so it doesn't get stuck, because then that's what causes disease and
Hmm.
on the beliefs. You know what I mean? It's held within the body.
I agree. The Body Keeps Score is a great book.
Yes.
They're really good at, like you said, repressing, suppressing, putting away difficult things that happen. So much of life, anyways, in general, is set up where we don't have much time or space to
Yeah,
sit and
exactly. And that's
to
all
do that
done
stuff.
intentionally.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
yeah.
100%.
And frankly, we're not taught how to deal with the emotions. We're taught that it's wrong and that we shouldn't be feeling that, put on medication. So everyone's seeking these outward, something outside of themselves to heal the pain within them.
Yeah.
So, with the medical industrial complex, I call it, and even our schools, everything, everyone, our parents, and that's how they're programmed. So they're programmed to program us that way. So now we can take our power back and just honor ourselves, honor our feelings, honor our children's feelings, and pass that down to them and teach them that it's okay, like how you are with Billy. Like he knows it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel like that, and then help him through that.
Yeah, yeah, and teaching kids, children are definitely different with it because you can't, not gonna sit and, at least I haven't had success with mine or anyone else's kids being upset and being like, let's sit and just breathe about it. Like
Right.
it's, some of those things aren't always maybe more available for us as
Right.
we get older, but some of those are more difficult with children. And I think, a lot of it, I guess, it comes down to a balance. I think it comes down to, escapism in itself isn't necessarily always a bad thing. When that becomes the main means of how we cope or deal with stuff is when things become a problem. But
Yeah.
like sometimes we can avert difficult or bad feelings with we're upset about something silly that happened on TV or a video game, and we can go outside and play with a toy. And that's, in my opinion, fairly healthy, at least in this one regard. But now if I'm to do that all the time and we bypass like never sitting there talking about how we were feeling or without ever trying to open or initiate a space where that's like something that we can talk about. Um, I think I'm doing our little ones a disservice because they're they're little people too, and I maybe don't always want to talk about how I'm feeling, or it may not be the right time, or I may not feel the most open to discuss stuff like that. So I feel like you got to meet them where they're at. And as the
Yeah.
parent, you have to have a lot of these tools in your repertoire so that you can use discretion around how and when it's appropriate to use what type of tools to get around the situation. Um, the goal of which I think always being finding a way with your kids to sit down and to talk to them about it,
Yeah.
modeling and being the type of person yourself that they're comfortable. to approach with that. And that might not be something that happens, at all, like during the day in the heat of shit going on and our busy schedules that we have to have. But good times and opportunities you have for getting that with them is within the first couple minutes if you wake up. And then
Oh yeah,
those last
absolutely.
like 5, 10 minutes of going to bed is a wonderful time to talk with your kids about what's something that they did today that they're excited about or that they appreciate, something that they're grateful for, when they maybe felt the most proud or when they got to help somebody today. Important things like that are fun conversation starters you can use to build that type of emotional intimacy with your kids and give them a space to talk about things that are, important to them they might not always think about. They're going to appreciate sharing generally.
And leading by example. You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest thing is us healing ourselves because they're gonna follow. And then
Yeah.
we'll be there for them when they need it.
Oh, 100%, because they have to do their own thing and they're here to be doing their own thing. Like,
Right. Absolutely.
cool, they sign up to come play with us for stuff. And then it's, more interesting or synchronistic ways that are difficult to explain. Like, I don't know, like you had mentioned earlier with the death of Evan's father. Like, I mean, if you didn't have Evan, I don't have much reason for me at that time and knowing how I was thinking to being to want to be here. So it's crazy
Right.
how kids decide to jump in and I think they make a choice before they sign up for this and come in and pick
Absolutely.
exactly the type of people, the family that they want to have to
Yep.
work through things that they're going to need to work through in this life or maybe past lives. And they come through, they save the day for us too. And I think that is that it's knowing or having and sitting with that type of belief or perspective about it is what allows me to hold myself to for some people, unrealistically high level of accountability. Um, I think that is one core point that things boil down to is that like I'm human, you're human, we're all gonna make mistakes, we're all gonna have issues based on like cultural conditioning, religious conditioning. There's times I'm not gonna get enough sleep, I'm not eating right. He's yelling, throwing toys. I'm pissed and I yell back, or I raise my voice. I use curse words. I use language. I hurt feelings if people are upset. The most important thing I think is after, because it may not be the most appropriate to address it in the moment. Especially if there's a reason as a parent I had to yell at you as a kid, because I mean the kids
Right.
do dangerous things and certain things. But having that space or making utilization of the space, like at bedtime or in the morning, bring up and talk about those things. Apologize. Say like, hey, dude, you can't jump off of the swing set or whatever. You're gonna break your leg. Did I need the yelling, like scream, like "What the fuck are you doing?" Like from across the
Right.
yard, something to you? No, I didn't. But understand, I'm scared. I'm worried. I was worried about your safety. Your safety is what's in
Right.
danger here. I didn't
Absolutely.
approach it the right way, but trying to. My intentions are in the right place, and I know I'm aware and I'm of, and I'm working on having a better application of how we approach things like that. And of course when I fuck up, like it's most important that I tell you, hey dude, to fuck up. Not that that makes a justification, not that I make an excuse, but that I can tell you, hey, I dropped the ball, I'm
Right.
sorry. How did that hurt you, or like what can I do next time to make sure I could be better about that? Or maybe you're different in your way. Like I'm a super emotional, huggy person. Maybe that's not okay for you, or you don't want to talk about it and you don't want to hug. Make that known to me so that I don't come up and give you a hug and make you all uncomfortable right off the bat or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Like,
Open communication, holding space for them, allowing them to feel, and then being that example. That's like it's massive.
yeah,
And then yes, like you said, talking about it. Because when Jaden's having one of his episodes, in the moment is not the time to talk about it.
no,
Letting him cool down and then later on working through it. Just
yeah,
allowing him and letting him know like it's okay. It's okay to cry, it's okay to get it out. And lately, like letting him punch something has been massive because he has this like anger inside of him, and it's a boy thing.
yeah,
And like a lot of women don't understand that. And, we have this misconception that our kids have to be good. And what does that mean? Like I don't like calling a kid good or bad. Like there's no bad kid. Like Karen
mm-hmm,
said one time, food goes bad. Kids
yeah,
aren't bad. They just, they pick up their parents, they pick up what's around them, their surroundings, and then they repeat it. So we just have to teach them, you know, to inquire who they really are and like what is okay. You know what I mean? It's not okay to hurt other people, to be aware of other people's feelings and of themselves, and and not making it wrong and instilling any shame or fear into them, but just allowing them to be and be free.
No, I agree, and I think important role that we have in that is, like what is real love without a certain degree of boundaries. It's also our job to make sure that our kids are like well received in society. They know how to communicate, what they want, what they need, be
Exactly.
people around other people and all different types of people. Like team building and working together with people you don't like is an important skill. Do you
Yeah.
realistically have to do that a ton in your life? Like, no. You get to an age where you're like, I don't really don't have to do that if I don't want to.
Right.
But I think it's important to be able to see and understand it's like all kinds of different people. I think it gives experience and exposure in a healthy regard, or with a safe net, safe space from us as to like what's okay, what's not okay. It gives them the best chance or the most opportunity early to figure out like, well, what kind of person do I want to be? And pointing all those things like out when they're good, like it doesn't telling your kid a great job for having good grades doesn't mean shit.
Right.
Applauding them like, hey, I know when you don't want to do this, and we sit down most evenings and it's a battle to sit in and get homework done or whatever. I'm proud of you to see that this stuff pays off. Like that's not easy for you. It's not always easy for me. It's not always a good time. It's cool that that hard work pays off. Appreciate that. Not that you got an A on your paper or that
Right.
applaud. Like one of the things I tell Gilligan so much that I love and appreciate so much about him is that he's the type of person that wants to help people. I see him play games that I shouldn't let him play, that he's way too young to play, like Gorilla Tag on the VR. And Gilligan runs around with other kids, and I got to turn it off and take it away, put rules on it. Unfortunately, at the expense of other people, because he's too young to really be playing it, and they're mean and they're not nice to him. But on the other kids that are also too young, or people that don't know quite what they're doing, the first thing Gilligan wants to do is go show them how to play. He wants to help them out. He wants to teach them things.
Yeah. That's how
He wants
Jaden is too.
he wants to learn and share and play and do things together, and he wants to help you be better. And I
Hmm.
tell him like, not every people are always like, not every single person is inclined to be that way. That's something
No.
special that you can appreciate. If you ever feel bad or feel down, hard on yourself because you're not whatever, you're the type of person that wants to help people at the end of the day. That's a beautiful thing. Not everybody
Yeah.
feels like that.
And he's also learned that from you, you
I would
know?
hope so.
Yeah. Because,
I
yeah.
would
And
hope.
that's huge. It's a really beautiful thing about Gilly.
I
He's
think it
a
opens you up to be
light.
hurt a lot. That's where I think love with boundaries is very important.
Yeah. And then also because you're basically a single parent. So I have mad respect for you. You're raising a boy almost on your own. So like massive props and respect to you for that. For real.
He's
You
the one
don't
that
get that a whole lot.
he teaches me just as much if I'm teaching him anything. I just enjoy his
Exactly.
company.
That's where it's at. That's huge. Yeah, I wish I would have known a lot of what I know today when Evan was younger. But I'm having
Yeah,
to like un unschool Evan and work with Evan because he spent a lot of time with his grandma, my grandmother. He lived with her a couple years when all that stuff happened with Jake dying and my addiction. Not like full time, but he spent a lot of time with them. So he picked up a lot of like negative behaviors, very withdrawn, and like there's just I love my grandmother. Don't get me wrong, have so much respect for her, but
yeah.
there's a lot of like negative, fearful programming. Like she pushes a lot of fear into people,
There
and so
people do. And
yeah,
it sucks. It comes from that place of ignorance. And not
yeah,
to cut you off, but that's where we gotta that's why I'm such a diehard believer in like compassion is the only way. You
Yes.
you got to know that they're coming. Generally, like intentions play an important role, and I can respect and appreciate people's heart being in the right place. But then there's also like real life act like consequences of our actions,
Yeah.
and it sucks when that is coming from a place of like you said, fear, insecurity. It's instilling a sense of thinking and feeling and being of not enough of I can't. I'm. It's hard, and I feel like most people don't like intend to or mean to. They just they
And
are and
this,
have been that way for so long.
with her, it's like borderline insanity because, like, for instance, Evan was riding a bike with training wheels when he started to live with her at 5 years old. And he fell one time, and because she freaked out so much and projected that onto him, he
Never gonna
no
do it again.
he no longer wanted to get on the bike. And I
Yeah.
still, now he'll get on it. Now he's 15 years old. He'll get on his old bike and play with Jaden. But he's having to
Hard though.
re-experience these things. And that's the good thing about having a younger brother like that, is he's able to like kind of relive these moments he missed because my grandma kept him so sheltered and didn't allow him to do things. And then I didn't know what to do at that point in time.
Well, it's amazing. That's what kids offer us too. Like, I mean, I think
Oh yeah,
the
absolutely.
divine
Instead of
opportunity to
saying,
be like, hey, here's a, you'll hear a lot of times, like parent that you never had, go do that. You're older now. Give yourself the things that you get, but that's like, what the fuck, man? Like, how do we really do that? Or what does that mean? But then you get kids. Sorry, I'm going through the basement. But then you have kids, and then you have a real life in your fucking face, like, do that. You know, Here you go. Literally, you can be the parent that you didn't have for someone that looks just like you. That literally more than physically is a fucking part of you. And
yeah,
it's crazy. And then you can see when I fall short or I don't hold myself accountable and I'm not operating from the best way that I want to be or that I could be, you watch your kids pick up shitty behaviors. You watch kids start talking like you, they start acting like you.
yeah,
And a lot of times, unfortunately, people go, "Oh, something's wrong with my kids." Like, no, really, man, like you fucked up.
yeah,
Been fucked for a long time. Your kid's gonna learn that from you. Why? Because they idolize a piece of shit. You Somebody who's not figuring their shit out, someone who's not connected, someone who doesn't care. That
right.
isn't like it's not your kid's problem. They don't know any better. Same way you don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like
They
that's
don't
why
have
we
to
owe
hear that.
ourselves that we have that. An army of amazing people in community, and I think that's so important as people that we have you know, good people to have in our circle. It's like, dude, they hold you accountable. We need to. I know I need somebody. If it is just this guy on the ship, this captain runs a real loose fucking ship, man. I
Yeah,
might have people that need me or depend on me or want to see me be doing better. Like, my lack of commitment to like my passion, my desires, is a slap in the face to all of the people that stand behind me, supporting me and wanting to see me be the best that I can be because they see something in me that I obviously don't at the time see something in me, or shitty conditioning and believing that I'm like, oh, maybe I can't do this, or I shouldn't be, blah, blah, blah. I don't deserve money and good things. And fuck all of that. You're disrespecting all the people that you have in your corner, and you wouldn't be where you at if you didn't have those people. Like, sorry, ranting. We need community. It takes a village. You hear that with
yeah,
kids. It'll never change your whole life. It takes a village.